South Carolina's Low Country, a place known for its beautiful pictures, marshlands, and tight-knit communities, became the epicenter of a tragedy that unraveled. It all started with a boat crash, one that left 19-year-old Mallory Beach dead. But the story wouldn't end there. The crash was just the beginning. What followed was a web of privilege, deception, and ultimately murder. Today on Strawberry Inc., we dive into the case that led to the downfall of the Murdaugh family, a name once synonymous with power and influence. So, before we get started, buckle up, as we will be discussing a white person going down. The people in life that have been the meanest, the people in life that have been the most pathetic, the people in life that have been the most depressing, and the people in life that bother me the most are white people. Not all, but several. A white person can be so evil, attacking either directly or indirectly. They can be so stupid, so ridiculous, so oppressing, and so pathetic. I'm sick of those scums. This is the story of the Murdaugh boat crash, the wrongful death of Mallory Beach, and the murders that shocked the nation. It was a little after 2 a.m. on February 24th, 2019, when Paul Terry Murdaugh crashed his family's boat into the Archers Creek Bridge in Beaufort, South Carolina. 6 were on board. Among them was Mallory Beach. Moments before the crash, tensions were high. Paul Murdaugh had been drinking heavily throughout the night. In fact, hours earlier, he had used his older brother Buster's idea to buy alcohol at a convenience store in Richland. He and 5 friends had taken the boat to an oyster roast, and after leaving the event, they made an unplanned stop at a dockside bar in Beaufort. There, Paul and another passenger, Connor Cook, took multiple shots. By the time they left, Paul was visibly intoxicated, erratic, aggressive, and unpredictable. Witnesses say he refused to let anyone else drive the boat. His girlfriend, Morgan Doughty, later recounted how Paul had shoved her, spit on her, and even slapped her just before impact. At 2:17 a.m., the boat slammed into a pylon near the bridge leading to Paris Island. Mallory Beach was thrown into the water. The rest of the group suffered injuries, some severe, which required surgery. Mallory's boyfriend, Anthony Cook, refused to leave the scene. He stayed behind, waiting for any sign of Mallory. For 8 long days, investigators and volunteers scoured the river. And on March 3rd, 2019, 2 volunteers found her body 5 miles downstream from the crash site. At the hospital, Paul Murdaugh was uncooperative with medical staff. His blood alcohol level was measured at .24, 3 times the legal limit. Despite overwhelming evidence, Paul denied responsibility, even trying to blame Connor Cook for the crash. But Connor's injuries didn't match the driver's position. Paul was charged on April 18, 2019. Ironically, this was Mallory's birthday. The charges were 3 felony counts of boating under the influence. These charges, as well stated that Paul had caused Mallory's death and seriously injured 2 other passengers. By this point, the 5 injured ones, including Paul, had been released from the Beaufort Memorial Hospital. During his stay, Paul's dad Alex made bail arrangements with the Beaufort County Clerk, Jerry Ann Rosenau. However, he would remain out of custody after his hospital release without having to pay a bail until his first court date in front of a judge. This meant that there was no need to be booked into jail or face a magistrate. On May 6, 2019, Paul pleaded not guilty to the 3 felony charges he was facing. 1 count of boating under the influence causing death, and 2 counts of boating under the influence causing injury. This hearing was held at the Beaufort County General Sessions Court. If convicted, Paul could have spent 25 years in state prison. And, as expected, his family's wealth and influence kept him out of jail while awaiting trial. He was released on bond, shielded by the Murdaugh name. The bond Judge Stephen John set for him was $50,000 with assistance from agents. It was posted in front of the judge and Paul would remain free. His father had defense attorney Richard Harpootlian represent him, but he would never stand trial. On June 7, 2021, Paul Murdaugh and his mother Maggie were found dead at their family's Hunton estate. Therefore, prosecutor Megan Burtstead would withdraw the charges. Paul had been shot with a shotgun and Maggie with a rifle. At first, the public was led to believe this could be retaliation for the boat crash. But as investigators dug deeper, the truth was more sinister. At the Colleton County Coroner's Office, their deaths were ruled a murder. On July 15, 2022, Alex Murdaugh, Paul's own father, was charged with the murders of him and his mother. The motive, financial ruin. Alex was drowning in lawsuits, and a critical court hearing was set for June 10th, just days after the murders. That hearing would have exposed his financial crimes that had gone unnoticed for years. His own attorney, Mark Tinsley, later said, "The fuse was lit." But the Beach family wasn't done fighting. Mallory's mother, Renee Beach, filed a lawsuit not just against Paul, but against his brother Buster, who had lent Paul his idea, and against Maggie, who allowed him to have access to the boat. The lawsuit also named Alex Murdaugh and the Parkers Corporation, the convenience store chain that illegally sold alcohol to Paul. In January 2023, the lawsuits against the Murdaugh family were settled. In July, Parkers Corporation agreed to pay the Beach family $15 million. Justice in some form had been served, but for Mallory Beach's loved ones, no amount of money would bring back their daughter, their friend, their light. The Murdaugh case is a haunting reminder of what happens when power and privilege are left unchecked. Their family attorneys, Jim Griffin, Corey Fleming, Mark Tinsley, Richard Harpootlian, had represented the 4 Murdaughs in the lawsuits: Alex, Maggie, Buster, and Paul. The 5th defendant, the Parkers Corporation, was represented by attorney P.K. Shear. On the other hand, Mark Tinsley and his law group represented the Beach family. The civil case was heard before Lexington County Judge Daniel Hall. A night of reckless driving, a system that allowed a family to evade consequences, a father who killed his own son to protect his secrets. The Beach family lost their daughter, the Murdaughs lost their legacy, and in the end, South Carolina lost its illusion that some families are untouchable. On March 6, 2019, Mallory's visitation was held by the People's Road and Funeral Home at the Open Arms Fellowship Church, both in Hampton. The following day, her mass was held at the same place. She was afterwards buried at the Sandy Run Cemetery in Bowman. Then for Paul and Maggie, there was a private visitation, along with a private celebration of life ceremony, both held at the People's Road and Funeral Home. There was then a public burial for them at the Hampton Cemetery. This has been Strawberry Inc., I'm Santiago. Please stay safe out there. And stay tuned for part 2, which will be released at 4 in the morning.